The big talking point was Trouba. Like, this guy plays for keeps, man. He's going to take your head off if he gets a chance. And, he got.
I don't get this, though, Noodles. Explain to me, if you can represent the league, how it's a 2-minute penalty plus a fine.
It's almost like they looked at it after. And guys,
I know.
I had to look
possible?
at it. I had to look at it, and I at first thought that the elbow hit him like between his shoulder blades. Like, you see that right there. It's almost like, I think it hit him in the upper back. I don't really see any.
The one angle is pretty damning. The other angle looks like he hits him right in the side of the face, right? Shoulder and side of the face. But
this guy always gets away with it. I'm sorry, he always does.
Listen,
I told you, he
the high stick on Frederick.
Yeah, insane stuff.
It's like that's intent to injure. It is. I don't care if it's your elbow, forearm. The guy's coming across the middle. You throw your wing out at the guy's head. Yeah. This is where the league.
Yeah, I guess, Brian, you bring up a good point where it's like, regardless of where that made contact, when you fly the chicken wing out, you've got one thing in mind. It's like, I'm beat, and I want to try to inflict some pain here because I'm beat.
Right.
Well, he may have escaped
looked like one of our boys, like Prongs would pull that move. Right, our boy Chris Pronger. That would. Oh, you think you're going to beat me? Chew on that.
Pull that move. That was a Tuesday night in February.
I know, but he got suspended a lot in his career. For
Prongs
that
was
move.
nine times, I think, suspended.
Right.
But listen. They looked at it, which is, I don't know if it was 5 and then called back to 2.
Well,
I can't remember how they called it.
Right, I don't see how, like, watching that live, how that's not immediately 5 in a game. And borderline, you're calling security in.
I don't know if they really got him that hard. He got him, but I don't think he got him, like, knocked him out. Like, I
hear what you're saying. And Rodrigues, could he have been selling it to an extent? He might have been, and he returned. I hear you, but that looked violent live.
It was. It was a forearm
violent.
shiver to the side of the head. So we'll call it forearm shiver to the head. So I don't know how it didn't get a game or whatever. But I'll tell you, this guy, like,
I hear you, Noodles.
He plays for keeps. I take him on my team every day of the week.
Everyone else would too.
Lunatic.
That's not the argument. Like I would take Brad Marchand on my team. I'd take Kadri. I'd take Sam Bennett. I'd take a lot of guys. I'd take Chris Pronger every day of the week. Pronger's got suspended 9 times. It's a different conversation. I'm not disputing how he plays, and he's big and nasty, and he got away with one here.
Yeah.
I think if you're an average fan, you're like, let me get this straight. You reviewed it and decided 2, but then fined him. The fine to me is the dumbest, most insulting maneuver the NHL's created here. It's basically them saying,
what message is it?
Nothing. There's no message. It's not on the books, Noodles. It doesn't.
It is, because the next time
they create the books.
You become a repeat offender.
But they're in charge of the books, Noodles. Next time they'll just say, it's not a suspension. Like that, they create the books.
I understand that, but there is a protocol. If you have been fined or
didn't he get
on
fined
the
for
books
the Frederick high stick? I thought he did.
Yes,
I think he did.
So what book are we talking about?
I don't know if it rises to the level of, okay, if you got 2 fines, it goes to a suspension, something like that. But you were.
But that's what I'm saying.
So are they going to make that up, or when are they going to determine
they can make up anything they want. It's their book. Yeah, we're going to write in the book here that this one's actually $5,000, and then
I think all we can do is summarize it like this: it doesn't look good on the league when it's
the captain of the Rangers getting away with it.
The 2-minute penalty, and there's the suspension with the Frederick play, and then all of a sudden, magically, he gets a fine, or the lack of suspension on the Frederick play, fine there, and then 2 minutes here, and then a fine the next morning. It's like, what are we doing?
I think you're right. Like, what is the book? That's a great question. I don't know, but I go back to, then maybe it should be. The book is like, if you've been fined or suspended 2 times in the last 18 months. Doesn't matter what happens, the level of it, you get automatic this. Like that, maybe
we don't know if that's the way they operate.
I understand that. That's what I'm suggesting. I'm not saying.
I hear you, Noodles. The thing is, again, it comes down to their interpretation of what's worthy of it.
Right.
So it still is going to come down to human decision on.
Correct.
And what they'll do is, screw it. We don't want to suspend them, so we just won't fine them, so no one calls us on the fine stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
Because they could have gotten out of jail by just saying, well, our guys reviewed it. It was 2 minutes. But they decided to go with the fine thing as if it's like the 2-minute review in the NBA. It's the dumbest thing ever created. Who cares the next day that you miss stuff? What does that do for anybody? Nothing. It doesn't do anything for anybody. And listen, the Panthers have to be careful because they got a lot of nasty nasty dudes on their team. Sam Bennett just got away with one the last round. So, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I understand that. And I guess what I'm saying is I'd have more respect or understanding if they just didn't acknowledge it. They said, sorry, they reviewed it and they gave it 2.
Call on the ice, that's what we're standing by. You make a good point. Like, I'm not trying to counter argue it. I'm just saying, like, I felt like when you put people on the books, it should count for something. Mm-hmm. Here it doesn't seem like what you're making the point, but it should. That's my point. Is it should? If you're on the books, $5,000 fine in February, and now another $5,000. Maybe there should be some form of doesn't matter. That means there's 2 plays that we didn't like that we fined for you. Automatic 1 game, something like that, where there is that level of consistency where you go, doesn't matter. This guy got clipped. And you're right. They might just avoid it and go, call on the ice for 2 minutes. It is a fast game. It missed his hit, all of that. And you're right. Like, both teams play with an edge to the point where you could make an argument, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, you name it on their team, that Lomberg. But in the end, Jacob Trouba that could have ended really poorly. Like that, if he connects forearm right in the nose and knocks him out, then it looks different. But 2 minutes was a little bit lean,
I don't know. Listen, if that's the interpretation, they look at it, they think they got a shoulder, or they think Rodrigues sold it, or whatever. Okay, I would argue. I think there's intent there. Like, the guy throws his arm out when he's coming across the middle. But fine. And then, but then the next day, the league looks at it and goes, actually, we really didn't like that. So we're going to fine that. At a minimum, what the league is admitting is it should have been a 5 last night. Like, it should have been 5 and probably a game last night, and then you return for game 4. It doesn't have to be more. It's like, that's your penalty. It was bad. You intended to do something, but instead, he only gets 2 and a fine, and he'll be back in there game 4, and that's big for the Rangers because they need him. He's a really good player.